Well, good evening, everyone, and thank y'all for tuning in to the Whole Child series hosted by Teaching for the Culture. I'm Bianca Goolsby, and my co-host.
Hey y'all, I'm Kimberland. Glad to see everyone this evening.
Oh yes, oh yes. So, let's do a recap of is we having a music party upstairs.
Oh my gosh, girl, Alexa be out here trying to be helpful, child, and she sets the tone because she knows we're talking about some serious things today. So that's the calming music. My
I
bad.
love it.
Thank you so much to Alexa. It was just setting the tone, so we
I
can
love it. I love it. I was like,
get
wait,
our
what's
minds in the right place.
So, can we do a recap and just kind of talk about our last episode and what we talked about?
Yeah, there has just been so much going on, and let me find my brain space and reminding myself. So, the last time we were together, what did we talk about? Why is my brain having a complete brain fart? I feel
So,
traumatized.
there was some a series of events that were taking place. And we were talking about our children and breaking down. Yeah.
That's why I'm like, why is my brain fighting me right now and not
Yeah.
wanting to remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
Poor brain.
It's been a lot, and it's still a lot going on. It just doesn't stop. But you know what I say? COVID has definitely put a spotlight on what people have been calling out for years and generations. And so now the spotlight is here. And the question is, what are we going to do about it? What are the people elected to do something about it? What are they doing? And are we holding each
Yeah.
other accountable at this point? Because, you know, it's here, it's out in the light.
It's the triggers and the trauma and the
Hmm.
things. And it's so apropos, right? Because I literally in trying to prepare for this episode was like, okay, let me actually kind of plug in, and I felt an immediate headache. Like right
Mm.
now I'm sitting here and I feel it behind my eyes, like I just kind of feel it on my head, just like right here in this area. And I wasn't feeling that before. So, in full transparency, as we, have been dealing with all of these things that continue to happen, and this show is about trauma, but there's just been extensive traumatic situations that are happening.
Yeah.
I had talked to my doctor, and she was like, "You need to take some time off because your brain is tired." And I was like, "Oh, no, I'm fine. Like everything's fine." And she was like, "Ma'am, you need to take some time off." So this past week, I did take some time off, and did not watch the news. I didn't like tap into anything that was happening, and wasn't even really on social media very much. Um, so I saw some things, but just didn't lean in, right? Because I was like, I'm
Mhm.
off. Like I'm supposed to not be thinking right now. But I knew what was happening, and I knew that we needed to talk about the situation. And I'll just go ahead and say it for our audience of talking about Makaya Bryant. A 16-year-old girl who was killed by Columbus police over the past week. And I intentionally, like I said, didn't lean into the story during this time that I was away because I really wanted to give my brain a break. But now that I have plugged back in, and now that I'm paying attention, I feel it. Like I feel the trauma in my brain, like right now.
Mhm.
So pardon me, as I am kind of working through all of this and getting myself back to a place of being aware of what's happening is a reminder of how important that self-care piece is in this work that we do,
Yes, Jesus.
because it can cause so many other issues to happen. So as I'm thinking
Mhm.
through this, I'm like, so tomorrow I need to intentionally unplug, so that my brain can have some time to recover, because I feel like I shocked it, and now, so yeah. So, I guess let's just kind of get into this whole situation, and go through some of the things that we know that have come to light about the situation. And then, we can kind of talk through how we feel about it. So, I already said Makaya Bryant was a 16-year-old honor student, Black girl who was killed by a Columbus police officer. Makaya was in foster care and living with her foster family. And there was a situation where there were some people who were wanting to jump Makaya. And from what we know, this had been happening over a course of time, where there continued to be days where they were coming to the house and trying to fight her, and things of that nature. So on this particular day, and I'm looking for the actual date, I think it was a week ago, the 20th. Makaya knew that they were coming to fight her. It's come to our understanding that several of the people who were there were adults. One of the main people that was trying to fight her was in their 20s. And Makaya felt that she needed to go ahead and fight. And she grabbed a knife to protect herself. So her younger sister called the police and asked for help with the situation. There has been camera footage, body camera footage, as well as footage from the neighbor across the street that shows there was some words that were being exchanged. An altercation ensued. Police show up, and within 9 seconds of the police getting out of the car, we see someone was pushed. The police ask, "Hey, what's going on?" Makaya is lunging at a lady with a knife in her hand, and then she's shot 4 times. The police tried to render aid. Makaya later passed away. There are lots and lots of people that were there standing around. When I say lots and lots, I'm talking maybe like 10 people were out there standing around recording, not de-escalating the situation. And now there's an investigation that's happening. So one of the reasons that I wanted to talk about this is, again, I was on my mental break, right? So I really wasn't leaning into the story, but what I kept seeing is people justifying Makaya's death. And it was really bothersome to me, because what I know about all of the situations that have happened in this country is we've had multiple murderers who are apprehended alive who have white skin. However, we continue to see unarmed Black people, armed Black people, not sure if you're armed Black people being murdered consistently. However, some kind of way, people find a way to humanize and apprehend people in white skin without losing their lives. So that was the first thing that I saw. But then the second thing that I saw is that the main people that were justifying Makaya's death were people that looked like us and looked like Makaya. And I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it. Because there are so many layers here and so many levels to how Makaya was failed. And I guess I'm just wondering why that isn't the conversation as opposed to, well, she had a knife, so she should have died. So I don't know, what thoughts do you have? And I guess we can kind of just dig deeper. Um, yeah.
Yeah. So like you, I try to intentionally not get too caught up in the storyline of what happened, because at the end of the day, there is a young queen that is no longer with us.
Mhm.
But the thing that really got me was the need of social media validation,
Mhm.
where you had people that were standing around recording, and for whatever reason, like, this is the same behavior that we see exhibiting in our classrooms, and it's something that we talk about on this programming a lot.
Mhm.
So that was one of the things I caught off rip, is that
Mhm.
y'all are trying to be social media famous while there's something real legitimate that's happening that you could have a power to stop and
Mhm.
de-escalate, but you're choosing
Mhm.
not to. You're choosing to record for whoever's entertainment.
Yeah.
Um, and then the second thing I saw was the fact that there were people that use that same exact tool to basically shame her for protecting herself, or just trying to form a storyline or a post to go viral, but not be intentional with the words that they're saying or really looking at the root issue.
Mhm.
And the root issue is that this world has failed her,
Mhm.
and she's been placed in a foster care system, which we already know how that's going, and how our children are being harmed and abused and neglected. And then you have adults that are trying to fight a child.
Mhm.
So I just wonder, where have we, as a culture, I want to
Mhm.
know, where's this culture we're talking about? Because if
Mhm.
this is what we're talking about, then we need to change some stuff up, because this is not right, and everyone needs to be held accountable. We can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
We can't. And it's, again, generational trauma.
Mhm. It feels like the convergence of so many themes that we've talked about,
Hmm.
on the whole child. Even thinking about the fact that Makaya was 15 or 16. Some reports say 15, some reports say 16. Nonetheless, a baby.
Hmm.
Um, when we talk about the development of the frontal lobe, of the brain, that's the decision making center of the brain. That's the part of the brain that allows us to say, if I do this, these are the consequences that are going to happen, and be able to think 4, 5, 6 steps down this logical chain. And what
Hmm.
we know is that part of the brain isn't fully developed until early 20s. So we've talked about before, and both of us, come from middle school. So thinking about, when our middle school kids do the most ridiculous things, whether that be backflipping off of a table or fighting or sending pictures, they're not thinking about the consequences of their actions. As a matter of fact, their brains are not even developed to the point where that's a fluid process.
Hmm.
So I saw a lot of people saying things like, well, if she, picked up a knife, then so be it. And it's kind of like not understanding brain development, that she's not understanding that if I pick up this knife, this could cause me to die. Or even that if I stab somebody else, that they could die. Like our kids even struggle with understanding the permanence of death. And we see that all the time, like in the stupid TikTok challenges and all the things that they do, choking themselves so they black out and eating Tide Pods and all. Like they're not understanding that this can cause you to cease from existing. Like that's not really a thing that they get.
Mm-hmm.
However, who does get that or should get that are police officers, highly trained and skilled people who are supposed to be trained to protect and serve and de escalate first prior to utilizing deadly force. And I think it's really interesting when we expect a 16-year-old child to have more witness and brain capacity than a trained police officer. I struggle with that. And I'm not saying that there aren't times where it is appropriate for police to utilize deadly force. But what I noticed when I was watching the video is that the police officer got out of the car with his hand on his gun.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that says that there was never an intention to de-escalate. The intention was already, I'm rolling up to this spot with a whole bunch of unruly Black people. Therefore, I'm in fear for my life. I need to go ahead on and get ready to fire. And I'm tired. Like I'm struggling to find words because I'm just tired of how is it that you can walk up to a situation of
Mm-hmm.
unruly white people or a white person who is heavily armed with a firearm or a white person who has just murdered people, and you have the skill and capacity to be able to de-escalate that and apprehend them with no problem, but you come to a space where there are Black bodies and you get out the car with your hand on the gun.
Yeah, that's real.
I'm just, it's exhausting to me.
Mm-hmm.
In this process, especially for our girls, and we talked about this a little bit back when, what was the name of that movie? Was it Cuties? The
Cuties
one,
on Netflix.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we talked about this concept of adultification and what that means and what that looks like. So for the sake of recapturing and honoring what that means is when we talk about adultification, we talk about the ascription of adult-like qualities and characteristics to Black children. This looks like dehumanizing them, robbing them of their innocence. And what we see with our Black kids is as early as 5 years old that there is this process of making it seem like they are older than they are,
Mm-hmm.
placing expectations on them to behave in a manner that they're not really capable of because they are children. I think back to the situation that happened with the young man. There was the cell phone situation. The lady had left her cell phone in the Uber, but she had accused a boy of taking the cell phone, and the father had to intervene and
That's
all of
right.
that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the lady was talking to Gail King on the morning show, and she said to Gail, "I'm just a girl. I am just a girl." She's 25.
Mm-hmm.
Ma'am, you grown. You a
Yeah.
whole adult, right? But she can take that innocence as a white presenting person, but I'm just a girl. No, you are an adult who attacked a boy, right? She wasn't talking about how this 14-year-old boy is who she was accusing of stealing her phone, but she was able to subscribe that innocence to herself as just being a girl.
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at our Black kids and our Black girls in particular, we give them these types of labels like they're fast and they got an attitude and they just so flippy and so grown, and since you want to be grown, I'm gonna treat you like you grown, and it's us doing it to us. And I struggle. I struggle because I know that with Makaya being in the foster care system, that she did have to grow up faster, that she had to make sure that she had her own back because the system doesn't have her back. So she didn't have the opportunity to be the lighthearted honor student that we see on TikTok doing her hair tutorials, that she had to have a conversation with herself to be like, I got to go out here and protect myself. Let me grab a weapon so that I can do what's best for me, because I got to have my own back. Because all of these adults standing out here recording, none of them are speaking any sense into the situation to say, wait a minute, we trying to fight a baby? This a
Right.
baby.
Right. Right.
I just, I get exasperated. Um, because I feel like society has done such a job on us that we're now doing it to ourselves. And it's not often that I'm speechless, but this situation has left me quite speechless because I just I don't I don't know what to say. Like, I don't know how to get us to a point that we think it's important to protect our girls and protect our babies. Like, I don't know.
It's really a shame too, because you'll actually see grown adults that will be sharing their child's fight videos and encouraging and rooting and celebrating that behavior. And I just want to know when enough is enough. At what point will we say that this is enough, that we're going to do better, that we're going to protect our children, and that we're going to have a village? And you know what happened to that village? That village got messed up when people did not want to be held accountable for their own reasons. And
Hmm.
the village fell apart
Hmm.
because people did not want to be held accountable. And I just, to the people that was recording it, shame on you. For the people that encouraged that behavior, and while the mess was going back and forth on social media, because there's always a backstory, because from what I've gathered, they've been having conflict for quite some time. So the people
Hmm.
that were engaged in that conflict to where it rised to that level, shame on
Hmm.
you.
Hmm.
Everyone needs to be held accountable. And we continue to lose our young kings and queens for negligence,
Yeah.
just pure negligence. We just keep losing our children and then wonder what's happening. But we doing it for the culture, and I don't know what culture that is. I don't know what value system exists anymore. I just like you, I'm speechless because I just want to know at what point is enough enough, and tired of protesting, tired of being outraged. There's people that are out here that they want to do the work. You have complicit gatekeepers that's in the way, interfering with the progress of our black and brown children and just humans, just the political games that people play.
I, you know how all of this started with Makaya over the bed not being made up. That's how all of this started. And it just makes me think about some of my kids when I was back at a school site, and I would say things to them like, just because you're tardy to class does not mean that you have to get suspended today. Like, it can literally stop. But we're missing those de escalation strategies. And once that trigger happens, right? So again, that last episode we were talking about triggers and traumas. Once that
Hmm.
trigger happens, it is so important for us to understand that once someone is triggered, it takes 30 to 90 minutes for that person to de escalate, to be able to receive new information, to be able to calm down, to be able to think rationally. Like, it takes time for that to happen.
Hmm.
And I'm just thinking about this series of events that, she didn't make up her bed. So then the former foster kids have something to say to her about not making up the bed. So now she's being triggered because the stuff has already been happening. And now we got to do this. And then this is this and this. And it just continues to escalate. And nobody was like, let's pause for a moment. Everybody relax. It ain't that deep.
Hmm.
It's not that deep, right? And I think that a lot of times we try to jump to the end of a situation. When we're talking about in the educational realm, we talk about classroom management. So we talk about antecedents, behaviors, and consequences. The antecedents is what started all of this. And many times we want to deal with the behavior and assign the consequence, but we're not looking at the antecedent, the trigger to all of it
Hmm.
that happened. And it's just really making me think about how many opportunities that there are to prevent these deadly consequences from happening, right?
Yeah.
So here is police officer that walks up, you see the behavior, and now there's the consequence, but you don't even know what happened prior to this. So now we're
Hmm.
backtracking, trying to figure stuff out, but now somebody dead. Now a baby is dead because we don't have skills, tools to be able to just say, wait a minute, what is happening?
Yeah.
And it's not all on the police. Like, some of this is us in needing to be able to learn these skills for ourselves. And I feel like that's what prompted us to even start this podcast, is us being able to deal with our trauma so that we aren't continuing to trigger these things that end up in deadly decisions, whether that be immediate death or death down the road. Um, and I just hope, like, as people listen, that there's a urging in spirits to say, I need to deal with me. I need to think about me. I was just talking to a school today, and we were talking about social emotional learning.
Hmm.
And I was saying to them, because they were saying, we got all these kids and, they fight and, all of this stuff. And I said, well, why do you feel like they're fighting? And they were like, that's just what they do. And I was like, but why? And they were like, well, they feel safe to fight here. And I said, well, why? And they were like, well, they know that we're going to break it up. And I said, so what is that telling you? What do they need? So they were like, well, they need for us to help them with coping strategies. Well, why y'all can't help them with coping strategies? Because we don't have them ourselves. Thank you. Because you don't have them your own self. Adults. So we're looking at children and saying they should know better. Adultification. They
Mm-hmm.
should know better. No, we should know better. We're the adults in the situation. We should know better. But the fact that we don't know better, how you expect the children to know better? Because we're placing these unrealistic expectations on them, because we have this unaddressed bias, because we're looking at a bunch of black and brown kids and we feel like they should just know.
Mm-hmm.
How you want them to know and you don't know?
Yep.
So there are like so many chances for us to deal with our stuff so that we can know and then we can teach our kids how to know as well. But it literally starts with us. How you got 10 people standing around recording this melee and nobody is like, let's pack up and go home? This
Yep.
is silly.
Yep.
I'm trying to temper my triggers right now because my head is pounding, pounding. I want our little girls to have a chance to be little girls. Like, I want our little boys to be able to have black boy joy and our little girls to have their black girl magic and just be innocent, you know? And it makes me sad because I don't, it's such so big of a thing that it makes me feel helpless in not being able to make a larger difference. Um, but all of us have come across Makayas,
Yep.
you know, who are just trying to survive, just doing everything that they can to survive and to, count down until they out whatever situation they're in, just as smart as I don't know what, and as cute as I don't know what, and got all the personality and, all of that. Like, I want to be able to protect that. And I want us as the village to see the innocence in our children. Like, I want us to have the first inkling to say, this is our baby. Like, I have almost trained myself that when I'm talking about kids, school age kids, you a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you want to be grown, and I recognize that you're growing into a teenager, but you're a baby because that gives them the right to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
We had those chances to make mistakes. Like, that gives them the right to make mistakes. They're babies. They don't know any better. They're learning. I don't know. I'm at a loss.
Yeah. I I keep telling the people, be intentional. Be intentional with your children. Have conversations. Everyone be accountable. everyone be transparent, everyone operate in integrity. If we could just abide by these principles, the world would be a better place. But
Yeah.
until then, the cycle is going to continue because just imagine how many parents where their innocence was robbed from them.
Yeah.
And so they were forced to have to grow up. And so they're just continuing the cycle of trauma.
And they say things like that. Like I've heard people say, I had to figure it out. Like I had to, do this and that. And I've been working since I was 12. So they need to figure it out too. No,
Mm-hmm.
like the next generation should have it so much easier than the one before.
Yeah,
Like this is not the oppression Olympics for us to sit up here and be like, I had to figure it out the hard way. I had to figure it out the hard way so you don't have to. How about that?
that's right. Yep. But that's a growth mindset thing, though.
It is. It
And
is. And
that's a
I want what
strategy.
I was about to say, why don't you speak to that for the audience, what that even means to have a growth mindset?
So, to have a growth mindset means that you are looking at every possible outcome. You're being positive. You are having an outlook where you can take that information, you can have reflections, and you can literally continue to just grow. A fixed mindset is where you're just stuck in your ways and you fail to change. You do not want
Mhm.
to reflect or recognize your behaviors and your thought process. And you typically would have the mentality of it is what it is, and I am who I
Mhm.
am, and I'm not going to
Mhm.
change. Instead of being
Mhm.
a person to say, well, I am willing to change to see if I could become a better person each day.
Right.
And so there's a completely different intentionality between the two and how you operate day to day.
Mhm. And it's a decision,
Yeah.
to decide. And that's something that we teach kids very early on. Like, for instance, the power of yet. I
Hmm.
don't know how to do this yet, or I'm not good at this yet. Because we are always growing. But I do think we know people who have that type of mindset where they're like, it is like this. I am who I am, and I'm gonna be who I'm gonna be, with no intention to do anything differently.
Hmm.
I thank you for bringing that up because I really sometimes get so overwhelmed with everything that's happening that it just feels like there's nothing that can be done to battle it, but just illuminating somebody's understanding to the fact that if I choose to have a growth mindset, that means that I can make a different choice tomorrow, which can have a different outcome.
Hmm.
I can choose to analyze the way that I make decisions and practice self awareness and practice making different choices and therefore have different outcomes. Like, it is something that is possible and achievable. So I thank you
Yeah.
because I am like, I don't know, this particular, I feel like we all have in the state of America, we all have one of these stories that we really just latch on to, and you're like, this one right here. And I can
Hmm.
say for this Makaya story, I have countless former students that I know, had I not been able to get baby girl into my office and like, sis, listen to
Yeah.
me. Listen, we not doing, like, I'm not going to let you do this. I can see so many of them could have been in this situation. And I just want us, especially as women, to wrap our arms around our little girls and
Yes.
help them to grow and develop in safe ways. You know, that's what got me to start my mentoring program, because I didn't have that when I was a little girl. Like, I didn't have anybody to go to. I couldn't talk to my mother about things. You know, I had to talk to my friends. And I vowed that when I became an adult, I would provide a safe place for girls to be girls and to be able to ask questions and not get in trouble for just being curious.
Mhm.
So this Makaya story, I think a part of my avoiding it is I feel it so deeply because I know so many girls that that's them. You know,
Yeah.
and I don't in all honesty, like, sometimes don't feel like feeling. You know, like, I don't feel like really sitting with this and letting this resonate. And when I think back to the constant traumas that we've had, you know, from Ahmaud Arbery to Breonna Taylor to George Floyd, just over the past year, just the past year. And then thinking about Dante Bryant and Adam Toledo and, like, Dante Wright, I mean, and all of these people that have lost their lives. Like, I've been paying attention, but not feeling. But this the one where I'm like,
Yeah.
she was a baby, you know, and I don't know, I don't think I necessarily see myself in her, but I definitely see people I know in her. Um and I want our little girls, our little Black girls, to be as precious as little white girls get to be. I want us to rally around our little Black girls the same way that we rally around little white girls. You know, when I hear about Black girls missing, or even when I think back to all the stuff that was happening with R. Kelly, and where is our compassion for our little Black girls?
Yeah.
You know, where we say to ourselves, they're girls. They're not grown women. They're not. I don't care what they have on. I don't care if they out here cussing and slapping their thigh on the corner and all of, they're little girls.
Yeah.
They're babies. And I want us to remember that. Like, I really I want us to remember that. I saw a meme just the other day, and it was like, if Makaya was a young white girl, we would be talking about how broken the foster care system is, and doing everything in our power to fix it, and, you know, coming up with strategies, and there might even be a law named after her. But instead, we're looking for excuses and reasons for why it was okay for her to die.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and that just kind of sat with me, like, we really out here like, yeah, she deserved to die. And she did not. So I don't know. This isn't a this isn't a feel good type of show today, which I feel like we continue to have those. We're like, so today we gotta talk about another thing. Um, but yeah, I want us to protect our girls.
Yeah. We gotta protect our queens, and we need to hold folks accountable. So I'ma just say it, but some of your pastors,
Mm,
some of your family members, when we say protect our girls, we mean protect our girls,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
let's not have selective outrage. Let's not pretend like we don't know What we talking about? Protect our girls and stop playing games because our children deserve so much better. And I I I just want to know when enough is enough. At what point will we get so tired that we will want to hold ourselves and other people accountable to do better
Mhm.
every single day? At what
Mhm.
point
Mhm.
will we get there? And I'm just waiting for that day so we can say, okay, everyone, you have your own agenda. You have what God called you to do. Operate in these principles, be a good human, because at the end of the day, we all working for each other.
Yeah.
And it's just a shame to just see the stuff I seen on social media. It's absolutely disgusting. And we just need to really have an intentional conversation with what social media is doing to us.
Mhm. Mhm.
Not just standing around recording it, but then you want to make posts to go viral. And then you have people that are so racist that are just posting whatever on social media, not giving any regards of how that would make someone else feel.
Right.
At what point will enough be enough? And that's just gonna be my closing question. At what point will enough be enough? Because I'm just tired of seeing our young kings and queens dying, and I'm tired of the rap music that I'm hearing. You literally have a rap song that says "Who I Smoke," and they're literally naming the people who have died in the
Mhm.
city of Jacksonville. You have these young kings making music about their activity and their crimes that they're committing in their local cities for a check, for views, for someone to appreciate and love them.
Yeah, that's what it is, the missing of the love and appreciation.
That's it.
So they're finding the validation in any way that they can.
That's it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
at what point will enough be enough?
we need to hug our children. And I know we talk about talking to our kids and listening to our kids, like, y'all, we gotta push in on that, because that is at the root of it all, is the validation that they get from feeling that somebody sees them. And attention, it doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative, because attention is going to feed the part of the spirit that is lacking that attention and love. And we really, really, really have to take the time to sow those positive attentions
Yes.
into our kids, so that they don't go to seek the negative validation, because that negative validation is out there. Trust and believe. But we are the ones who can give that positive attention and provide the space for them to feel safe and vulnerable. It's past time. It's really past time. It really is. So I don't know, y'all, comment, and let us know what that's going to look like. Maybe that means that you are going to have a no cell phone policy at dinner. Maybe that means you're going to start eating dinner together, right? Because I don't even know if that's still a thing in households. Or maybe we're turning off the TV, once a week, and having a family meeting, and talking about what they would listen to them, but it's like
Mhm.
we have to come up with strategies to fight this, and we have to do this together, because we are losing our children. We're losing our
Yes.
children to the things that we're doing to each other. We're losing our children to police violence. We're losing our children to the streets. Like we're losing our children, and we can't afford to do that any longer. So this is kind of like the urge and plea, like, come on, y'all. Come on. Like, we
Yeah.
gotta stop with our adult foolishness because our kids need us to get better so that they can have healthy lives. And we just don't have any more time to waste. Like, we just don't.
Yeah.
So,
They don't. Pray for your kids, and pray for other people's kids, and understand that there's a lot of stuff that's happening right now that you might not be aware of,
yeah.
but there are children that are going missing every single day. And parents, I'm going to tell you, and every episode, every chance I get, I'm going to tell you, check these cell phones, please.
Yeah.
And please don't allow your child to have their cell phone in their room unsupervised at night. So they're texting and on apps all times of night while you sleep in your bed. And just imagine how many people are virtually
Yeah.
inside your household.
Yeah.
Protect our children, our protect our young kings and queens. It's a real thing. It's a shirt on teachingfortheculture.com. You can purchase it. It's it's
It's a
serious.
thing. Yeah. So we appreciate y'all for watching, for listening. Sometimes we just gotta keep it real, and have
Yeah.
times to process. So thank you for allowing us to even lean in to that vulnerability and the processing, because we trying to figure it out too, you know, but
Same.
we're committed to furthering the conversations and continuing to provide space to unpack and really think about what we can do in order to leave a world that's better than we found it. So,
Yeah. Where can people find you?
you all can find me on Instagram at Kimberlyn J, or on my website at kimberlynjackson.com. Have a lot of new and exciting things that are going to be coming up within the next couple months. A lot of transitions and new projects and all of those things. So I'm pretty excited about the things that are going to be happening. So want to make sure that y'all are connected.
Yeah.
Also, if you are looking for a life coach, you feel the prompting in your spirit that you really need to fulfill purpose, definitely feel free to reach out to me, because that is my specialty in helping you to discover your destiny. So, where can they find you?
Oh well, you can find me on social media because I'm just dragging Hillsborough County left and right at this point. But no, on a on a serious note, you can find me on my website www.biancagoolsby.com, and all my social media handles are there. And yeah, you can also find archives to this podcast if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and the rest of the services we're listed. But you can actually visit us at thewholechild.tv. So you'll be able to see the video clips, and to kind of get a recap of what we've been doing over the years. And so I just thank
Yeah.
you for the opportunity. And this was a heavy episode, but I love y'all, and thank you so much, Kimberlyn, for always just doing this with me. It is really a pleasure.
Always. Yeah. Thanks. Bye, y'all.
All right, bye y'all.